The Galactic Council discovered Earth in 2147. Humans looked to the stars with hope. This new chapter promised great things for humanity. Ambassador Hyun Kim stood tall as she led Earth's diplomatic team. Her black hair was neatly tied back, her uniform crisp and formal. She believed deeply in humanity's potential. "We come in peace," she said to the council members during her first meeting. "Earth offers friendship, knowledge, and cooperation." The council chamber was massive. Creatures from 100 worlds sat in raised seats. Their forms varied wildly, some with multiple limbs, others with scales or fur, and a few that seemed made of pure energy. Their technology made Earth's best innovations look like children's toys. The council members nodded politely at Hyun's words, but their eyes, those that had eyes, showed something else. They looked at the humans the way adults look at children playing grown-up games. High Counselor Vex, a tall being with blue skin and 6 fingers on each hand, spoke first. "Earth is welcome as an observer. In time, perhaps more." Hyun noticed the condescension but kept her smile. This was just the beginning, she thought. Days turned to weeks, then months, then years. 20 years passed with little progress. The council labeled humans as a developing species, a polite way of saying primitive. They limited what technology they would share. They restricted human access to certain star systems. They set strict quotas on what resources Earth could mine from space. Jun Park served as director of Earth's diplomatic corps. A serious man with graying temples, he worked closely with Hyun. He kept detailed records of every slight, every dismissal by council representatives. After one meeting where the Plex delegation ignored all human input on a trade route that passed near Earth, Jun and Hyun sat alone in their embassy office. "Did you see how they looked at us?" Jun asked, loosening his collar in frustration. Hyun nodded, pouring tea for them both. The smell of jasmine filled the room. "They view us as children," Jun said quietly. "They expect us to be grateful that they allow us to sit at their table at all." "Perhaps they do," Hyun replied, her voice tired but determined. "But children grow up." Back on Earth, frustration mounted. World leaders questioned the value of council membership if humans were treated as lesser beings. Yet most agreed they should continue trying. Earth needed allies, needed protection in a dangerous galaxy. The Human Unity Government formed to present a united front to the stars. Military spending increased quietly. Research into advanced technologies proceeded in secret labs beneath the lunar surface. 10 more years passed. Hyun's hair showed streaks of gray now. Still, she persisted. She studied every council species, learned their customs, their weaknesses, their strengths. She built a small network of allies among the younger council races who sometimes felt similarly dismissed. The Centennial Council Assembly marked 100 years since the council's formation. Representatives from all member worlds gathered for the grand occasion. Earth submitted proposals for fairer trade agreements and reduced restrictions on human expansion. The Arcturian delegation, led by Supreme Commander Czar, openly laughed when the proposals were presented. "Perhaps in another century," Czar said, his translator conveying his mocking tone. "When humans have proven they can manage their own planet without destroying it." Other council members joined in the laughter. Even Earth's supposed allies remained silent. Hyun felt something change inside her in that moment. 20 years of diplomatic restraint reached its limit. She stood slowly, her movement drawing all eyes. "The people of Earth have extended every courtesy," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber without shouting. "We have followed your rules. We have accepted your limitations. We have shown patience." She paused, making eye contact with several council leaders. "But our patience is not infinite. Remember this moment." The laughter stopped. Something in her tone made even the most powerful council members shift uncomfortably. Hyun gathered her materials and walked out, her team following. The council session continued, but the mood had changed. That evening, Hyun sent a secure message to Earth: "Begin protocol independence." Unknown to the council, Earth had been preparing alternatives for years. secret mining operations in distant asteroid belts, hidden research stations developing technologies the Council forbade, training programs for humans to survive without Council support. 3 months after the Centennial Assembly, Earth's representatives stopped attending Council sessions. Inquiry messages went unanswered. When Council ships approached Earth to investigate, they found new defense satellites in orbit, technology that somehow escaped Council detection during installation. Hyun finally responded to the Council's messages with a simple video call. Earth is reevaluating its relationship with the Galactic Council, she stated. We request 1 year without Council interference to complete this evaluation. The Council was stunned. Member species did not simply take breaks from the Council. It was unprecedented. Behind closed doors, Council leaders debated how to respond. Most favored a show of force to remind humans of their place, but intelligence reports revealed concerning gaps in their knowledge of current human capabilities. We don't actually know what they've been doing these past few years, admitted the head of Council Intelligence. Our observers report only what humans allow them to see. The Council decided to grant Earth 6 months, not a year, believing this compromise would maintain their authority while avoiding unnecessary conflict. Hyun accepted the terms with surprising ease. 6 months will be sufficient, she said. During those 6 months, human ships quietly withdrew from Council space. Trading partners received notice that contracts would be honored but not renewed. Human diplomats departed from Council worlds without explanation. The Council began to worry. This was not the reaction of a chastised lesser species. This was something else entirely. When the 6 months ended, the Council eagerly awaited Earth's return to the fold. Instead, they received an invitation to send representatives to Earth for a special announcement. The stage was set for humanity's next move, one that would shake the foundations of the Galactic Council forever. Far beneath the surface of Mars, deep in the tunnels of Olympus Mons base, Science Minister Dae Park walked the long corridors of humanity's secret research facility. His footsteps echoed against metal floors. Workers nodded respectfully as he passed. Dae was a tall man with calm eyes. His hair was cut short, and he always wore a simple gray uniform with no markings of rank. He believed the work should speak for itself. The main laboratory stretched for half a kilometer underground. Here, 300 of Earth's brightest minds worked on projects the Galactic Council had forbidden. The air smelled of metal and ozone. The constant hum of machinery filled the space. Minister Park called out Chief Engineer Sue Lee. She waved him over to her workstation. We've done it. Sue was small in stature, but giant in intellect. Her workspace was cluttered with tools and parts. Holographic displays showed complex calculations that would have confused most humans. Show me, Dae said quietly. Sue pointed to a device no larger than a microwave oven. It pulsed with a soft blue light. This is the FTL core, she explained. It creates a fold in space-time that's stable at much higher speeds than Council tech. Their ships can travel 50 light-years in a day. Ours can do 500. Dae's eyes widened slightly, the only sign of his excitement. You're certain? We tested it yesterday. The unmanned probe reached Alpha Centauri in 15 minutes. Council ships take 3 hours for the same journey. Dae placed a hand on Sue's shoulder. This changes everything. There's more, Sue said, lowering her voice. The energy signature is completely different from Council FTL drives. Their sensors won't recognize what they're seeing. They'll think it's background radiation. Dae nodded. Excellent. Get ready for full-scale production. And Sue, tell no one outside the program. Across the solar system, similar scenes played out in hidden facilities. On Europa, beneath its ice crust, weapons researchers developed shield technology that could absorb enemy fire and convert it to usable energy. In the caves of Mercury, new metal alloys were forged that could withstand temperatures that would melt Council ship hulls. Earth itself showed nothing unusual to watching eyes. The Council maintained an observation post in orbit, but its sensors detected only what humans wanted them to see, outdated space stations, primitive shuttles, and unremarkable communications. In his office in New Beijing, General Jin Kang reviewed the latest defensive systems reports. Jin was a veteran of Earth's unified military. His face bore scars from early skirmishes with pirates at the edge of the solar system. The shield tests were successful, sir, reported his aide. Direct hits from weapons matching Council destroyer specifications resulted in zero penetration. Jin nodded. And our offensive capabilities. The new particle lance weapons are operational. They can disable a Council cruiser before it enters firing range. Good, Jin said. Now we need to ensure no one knows we have them until the right moment. On Mars, representatives from Earth nations gathered in a secret chamber 2 kilometers beneath the surface. This was the birth of the Human Cooperative, a shadow government preparing for independence. President Han of the Korean Union stood to address the gathered leaders. For too long, we have been treated as children. For too long, we have been denied our rightful place. Today, we begin a new chapter. The leaders voted unanimously to prepare for separation from the Council. Their plan would take 5 more years to complete. 5 years of secret preparation and quiet advancement. Meanwhile, in Council space, trouble brewed. Zindera, a spy for the Council Intelligence Service, had infiltrated a human trading vessel. Unlike most Council members, Zindera took humans seriously. Her species had once been underestimated too. She discovered unusual materials being transported, metals and compounds that had no place on a simple trading ship. She followed the trail to Mars, where her scanning equipment detected energy signatures that shouldn't exist according to known human technology. Zindera compiled her findings and sent them to her superiors. Her report was detailed and concerning. It suggested humans had technologies far beyond what they showed publicly. High Counselor Varix read the report in his private chambers. His facial tentacles curled in amusement. Humans with advanced FTL drives, weapons that could challenge our fleets. He laughed. Impossible. They're barely capable of maintaining their own fleet. He dismissed the report, marking it low credibility. Zindera was reassigned to monitor a less important species. Admiral Minpark knew nothing of this close call. He focused on his assigned task, training Earth's fleet without revealing its true capabilities. Min was younger than most admirals, with sharp features and intense focus. He had risen quickly through the ranks due to his strategic brilliance. Today's exercise will simulate standard patrol operations, he announced to his captains via secure communication. Council observers will be monitoring. Remember Protocol Delta, use only approved technology when in their sensor range. The fleet exercises looked routine to watching eyes. Earth ships moved slowly through the asteroid belt, practicing basic maneuvers. But hidden from view, they were testing new weapons systems, practicing complex battle formations, and pushing their secret engines to ever greater speeds. On one such exercise, Council observer ship Vigilant approached too closely. Captain Yuna Kim received the alert on her bridge. Council ship approaching, Admiral, she reported to Min. They're scanning us with deep penetration sensors. Min stayed calm. Activate countermeasures. Show them what they expect to see. Throughout the human ship, special systems created false readings for the Council sensors. Where advanced technology existed, the Council saw only primitive equivalents. The true nature of the human vessel remained hidden. The Council observer reported back. Human ships continue to use outdated propulsion and weapons systems. Their technology remains at least 3 generations behind current Council standards. This report reinforced the Council's view of humans as an underdeveloped species, not worth serious attention. Back on Mars, Dai Park met with Su Li to review progress on the FTL program. Production facilities hidden in the asteroid belt were now creating engines for the entire human fleet. Soon, Dai said, looking at the production reports, every human ship will have capabilities beyond anything the Council can imagine. And they won't know until we choose to show them. Su nodded. They think us children. They'll learn their mistake. Across the solar system, humanity prepared in silence for the day they would show the galaxy their true strength. The Council's patronizing attitude had created not a subservient ally, but a determined rival, one about to change the balance of power forever. The Grand Council chamber on Nexus Prime was the heart of galactic governance. Marble columns rose 50 meters to a domed ceiling painted with the history of space exploration. The chamber seated 10,000 delegates from 500 worlds. Light from 3 suns streamed through crystal windows. On this day, the chamber buzzed with routine business, trade disputes between minor worlds, updates on scientific expeditions, approval of new member applications. High Counselor Verix presided from the central platform. His blue skin had darkened with age, and ceremonial gold bands adorned his 6-fingered hands. He barely listened as a Proximan delegate droned on about mining rights. An aide approached Verix, whispering in his ear. The High Counselor's expression changed from boredom to surprise. "Earth has requested an emergency session," the aide said. Verix's mouth tightened. Earth rarely spoke at council meetings anymore. For the past 5 years, human representatives had sat quietly, voting only on routine matters. "What is the nature of this emergency?" Verix asked. They wouldn't say, "High Counselor," but Ambassador Kim insisted it was urgent. Verix sighed. "Very well. The Council recognizes Earth's request." The chamber quieted as Ambassador Hyun Kim walked to the speaker's platform. 25 years had passed since she first addressed the Council. Her hair was now silver, and lines marked her face. But she stood taller, moved with greater confidence. She wore a simple black uniform with a single silver pin, the Earth symbol redesigned to include stars. Those with sharp eyes noticed it was not the usual Earth emblem. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Council," Hyun began, her voice strong and clear. "I come before you today with an announcement of great importance." Verix nodded impatiently. "Please proceed, Ambassador." Hyun pressed a small device in her hand. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber changed. The routine displays disappeared, replaced by images that stunned the delegates. The screens showed vast shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, advanced research stations orbiting distant stars, human colonies on worlds the Council didn't know humans had reached. For decades, Hyun continued while the images played. "Earth has sought true partnership with the Galactic Council. We came in friendship. We offered cooperation. We followed your rules." The screens now showed human ships with designs unlike anything the Council had seen. Weapon systems being tested against targets that matched Council military vessels. "In return," Hyun said, her tone hardening, "we received patronizing dismissal. You classified us as a developing species. You restricted our growth. You mocked our contributions." Delegates began to murmur as the screen showed more evidence of human advancement. Technologies the Council had specifically forbidden Earth to develop. Today, humanity announces its immediate withdrawal from the Galactic Council and all associated agreements, Hyun declared. Her words echoed through the suddenly silent chamber. The screens now showed a map of space with a large region highlighted in blue, far larger than Earth's recognized territory. "These are the borders of the human cooperative," Hyun explained. "All worlds, stations, and territories within these borders are now independent of Council authority." The silence broke. Delegates shouted questions and protests. Some stood, waving their arms or appendages in anger. Verix slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor 3 times. The sound echoed, bringing partial order. "Ambassador Kim," he said, his voice tight with controlled fury, "this is unprecedented and unacceptable. The Council does not recognize this human cooperative. Earth cannot simply withdraw." Hyun's expression remained calm. "We are not asking for recognition, High Counselor. We are informing you of a fact." Military Commander Drez pushed forward to the platform. His reptilian features were flushed dark green with anger. The metals on his chest clinked as he moved. "This is treasonous," he hissed. The Council will impose immediate economic sanctions. Your worlds will be blockaded. Your ships seized. From the Mercantile Guild section, Supreme Trader Lorik stood. All trade agreements with human worlds are hereby suspended. You will be ruined within a standard year. Hyun waited for the threats to subside. Then she smiled, not a smile of happiness, but of someone who had anticipated every word. Your threats, she said quietly, yet somehow her voice carried to every corner of the vast chamber, require capabilities you no longer possess relative to humanity. She pressed her device again. The screen showed new images, massive defensive stations at key points throughout human space, energy shields activating around Earth and human colonies, fleets of ships moving into defensive positions. We have already activated defensive perimeters around all human territories, Him continued. Your ships cannot enter our space without permission. Your economic sanctions cannot reach us. We have spent years preparing for complete self-sufficiency. The chamber erupted again. Varix looked to his advisors, who seemed as shocked as he was. This was impossible. Humans were barely capable of interstellar travel, let alone this level of technology. Yet the evidence played on every screen. This is a declaration of war, Commander Drez shouted. Hyun shook her head. No, Commander. This is a declaration of independence. We will depart in peace. How you respond is your choice. She turned to the human delegation seated in their section. With a simple nod, they all stood. 20 men and women who had endured years of disrespect gathered their belongings. The human cooperative wishes the Galactic Council well, Hyun said. We remain open to establishing relations as equals in the future. Until then, we chart our own course among the stars. With dignity, Hyun stepped down from the platform. The human delegation formed around her. They walked slowly toward the chamber's main exit, backs straight, heads high. Not one delegate spoke as the humans departed. The only sound was their footsteps on the marble floor. When the great doors closed behind them, the chamber exploded into chaos. Varix called for order, pounding his staff repeatedly. It took 10 minutes to restore enough calm for anyone to speak coherently. This is impossible, said the Arcturian delegate who had mocked Earth at the Centennial Assembly. These images must be fabrications. Science Minister Trell stepped forward. My preliminary analysis suggests the images are genuine. The technology displayed. Some of it surpasses our own current capabilities. How could we not know? Demanded Varix. Where were our intelligence services? Intelligence Director Mole lowered his eye stalks in shame. We dismissed reports of human advancement as exaggerations. The observer Zendara filed several warnings, but they were considered low credibility. Find her, Varix ordered. Immediately. Commander Drez was already issuing orders to his staff. I want fleet status reports. Prepare for military response. We must make an example of Earth before others get similar ideas. An aide whispered to Drez. The commander's scales paled. What is it? Varix demanded. Our ships near human space, Drez said slowly. They report energy readings off the charts. The defense systems the humans displayed. They're real. And our analysis suggests our weapons would be ineffective against them. The chamber quieted as this news spread. In the silence, a small delegation from the Proximan world stood. Their ambassador spoke clearly. In light of these developments, Proxima also wishes to reconsider its membership status. Varix stared in horror. It was beginning already. Outside the council building, Hyum Kim and her team boarded their shuttle. For the first time in decades, she laughed freely. Did you see their faces? Asked Jun Park, now her chief aide. 25 years, Hyun said quietly. 25 years of being talked down to. And now, we never have to listen to them again. The shuttle lifted off, leaving behind a council in crisis and a galaxy on the verge of transformation. On the trading world of Rigel Prime, panic spread through the financial district. Traders rushed through the crowded streets, their voices raised in fear. The massive display screens that normally showed market trends now flashed red warning signs. Human markets offline. Earth bonds disconnected. Trade routes to Sol system closed. Bank Director Faz stared at the numbers on his screen in disbelief. His blue hands trembled as he called an emergency meeting. 60% of our investments are in human enterprises, he told his board members. If we can't access those funds, we're finished, said Chief Financial Officer Mira. Her normally perfect appearance was now disheveled from hours of crisis management. The entire Regelian banking system could collapse within weeks. Similar scenes played out across Council space. Worlds that had built their economies around trade with Earth suddenly found themselves cut off. Ships that normally carried human goods sat empty in ports. Workers who processed Earth resources were sent home. On the mining world Ceres II, riots broke out when food shipments from Earth colonies stopped arriving. The local council representative barely escaped with his life. High Councilor Varix called daily emergency sessions. His staff noted he had not slept in 3 days. We must show strength, Commander Drez insisted during one heated meeting. I have mobilized the Third Fleet to approach human space. They will see we are serious. Admiral Kaz, a veteran of border conflicts, shifted uncomfortably. Commander, our intelligence suggests their defensive capabilities are substantial. Our ships may be at risk. Nonsense, Drez snapped. They are bluffing. No species could advance so quickly without us knowing. 3 days later, the Third Fleet approached the newly declared borders of human space. Admiral Kaz commanded from the flagship Eternal Victory. Sensors detecting energy barriers ahead, reported his science officer. Configuration unknown. Power readings. Impossible. Explain, ordered Kaz. The barriers are generating more power than our sensors can measure. Our weapons would have no effect. Show me. The main screen displayed a vast energy field stretching across space. Behind it, human ships waited in perfect formation. Their design was elegant and predatory. Scan results showed weapon systems far more advanced than Council military intelligence had believed possible. A communication request flashed on the command console. Admiral Kaz, said a calm human voice when the channel opened. A woman in a simple uniform appeared on screen. Admiral Min Yuri of the Human Cooperative Defense Force. Your ships have approached our border. Please be advised that crossing this line will be considered a hostile act. Kaz studied the human admiral. Her expression showed no fear, no doubt, just certainty. We are conducting standard Council patrol operations, Kaz replied, following his orders. The Council does not recognize these claimed borders. Min smiled slightly. Your recognition is not required, Admiral. Nevertheless, these borders exist, and we will defend them. I suggest you take your fleet back to Council space. We have no desire for conflict. Scans showed more human ships arriving. Their energy signatures were like nothing Kaz had seen before. Kaz made his decision. Fleet will change course. Return to Council space. Admiral, protested his second. Our orders will get us all killed, Kaz finished quietly. I've seen enough. Send word to command. The humans were not bluffing. The Third Fleet retreated. Within days, other Council powers that had sent ships to human borders did the same. Military confrontation was no longer an option. On the Council homeworld, High Minister Wan Choi prepared his resignation. As the only human who had risen to Council leadership, his position was now impossible. One was an elegant man in his 60s who had spent 30 years in Council service. He had believed integration was the path forward for humanity. Now he realized he had been wrong. His final address to the Council was brief but powerful. For decades I served as a bridge between humanity and the Council, he said, his voice steady. I believed in the promise of unity. But I watched as my people were systematically underestimated, restricted, and dismissed. The Council has failed not just humanity, but its own founding principles of mutual respect and cooperation. One removed his official medallion of office, and placed it on the podium. Your arrogance has cost you not just Earth, but potentially many worlds to come. I suggest deep reflection on how to prevent further losses. He walked out to stunned silence. Within weeks, other species began to reconsider their council membership. The Proximan delegation was first. Ambassador Torque, his four arms raised in the traditional gesture of declaration, announced their withdrawal. The humans have shown us another way is possible, Torque explained to the assembled council. For too long, we have accepted second-class status. The Proximan systems hereby declare independence from council authority. Varix tried to intervene. Ambassador, this is hasty. Whatever grievances Proxima has, we can address them within the council framework. We submitted those grievances 50 years ago, Torque replied coldly. They remain under review. The time for talk has ended. The Proximan delegation departed, following the path the humans had taken 1 month earlier. Next came the Altair Collective, then the Ta City Alliance. Within 3 months, 17 smaller species had declared independence. A new term entered diplomatic language, the human model. It referred to independent development outside council oversight. The human model offers freedom from restrictive technology sharing, said Education Minister Laya to a group of young diplomats from newer council worlds. Why should emerging civilizations wait for permission to advance? Council leadership was in crisis. Blame flew freely in closed sessions. Intelligence services were reorganized after their failure to detect human advancement. Trade guilds scrambled to replace lost markets. Military leaders reassessed their capabilities against the shocking new reality. Zindera, the observer who had warned of human progress years ago, was finally found working in a remote outpost. She was quickly brought to council headquarters and promoted. Tell us everything you know about human capabilities, Varix demanded. Zindera's expression was carefully neutral. I filed 14 detailed reports over 5 years. All were dismissed. Perhaps you should start by reading those. On hundreds of worlds, citizens watched news of these events with growing interest. People who had never questioned council authority now began to do so. On the colony world New Hope, student Jun Lee organized a public discussion about the human cooperative. If humans could develop independently, he asked the crowd, why can't we? Why should the council decide what technology we can use, what resources we can access, what borders we can cross? Council security forces monitored such gatherings with growing alarm. Dissent was spreading, particularly among younger species. 6 months after humanity's exit, Council economists released a devastating report. Overall galactic economic activity had declined by 22%. Regions heavily dependent on human trade were facing total collapse. Emergency aid was dispatched to the hardest-hit worlds, but resources were stretched thin with so many crises erupting simultaneously. In a private meeting, Supreme Trader Lorix admitted the truth to Varix. The sanctions have hurt us far more than they've hurt the humans. They prepared well for independence. We did not prepare at all for their departure. Varix aged visibly during these months. The confident leader was now hesitant, reactive rather than proactive. Perhaps, he said quietly to his most trusted advisors, we should consider opening diplomatic channels with the human cooperative. Impossible. Commander Drez objected. It would show weakness. And continuing this failed approach shows strength, asked Zindera, newly appointed to the advisory council. The galaxy was transforming. The ripples from humanity's exit had become waves, and those waves threatened to become a flood that could wash away the very foundations of the Council's power. 5 years passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy changed in ways no one expected. The human cooperative grew strong and prosperous. Their worlds thrived with new technology and freedom. Under President Jun Han's leadership, human colonies expanded across the stars. Their ships traveled faster and farther than any in known space. Jun Han was a thoughtful leader with a calm voice and steady hands. He had been a colony governor when humanity declared independence. Now he led billions of humans across 50 star systems. We build not just for ourselves. but for our children's children, Jun often said in his speeches, we must be worthy of the freedom we have claimed. The human cooperative did not isolate itself from other species. They traded with independent worlds and former council members who approached as equals. Their universities welcomed students from across the galaxy. Their technology spread through fair exchange, not restriction. Meanwhile, the council changed too. After months of crisis, High Counselor Varix had resigned. In his place stood Zindera, the observer who had first warned about human advancement years ago. The council must adapt or fade into history, Zindera declared in her first address. The era of central control is ending. The future belongs to cooperation between equals. The council headquarters moved from Nexus Prime to a new station built in neutral space. The grand marble halls were replaced by practical meeting chambers where all seats were at the same level. No species sat above others anymore. Commander Drez and others who had pushed for military action against humans were gone. New leaders emerged who understood the changing galaxy. They reformed council rules to respect the rights of all member species, large and small. Many worlds that had left with humanity returned to the reformed council. Others remained independent. A new balance formed in the galaxy, not perfect, but more equal than before. 5 years to the day after humanity's exit, a special meeting was called. Representatives from the council and the human cooperative would meet on neutral ground, a space station called New Beginning. Ambassador Hyun Kim came out of retirement for this historic moment. Though now in her 70s, she stood tall as she boarded the diplomatic ship. Her aide, Ta Kim, walked beside her. "Are you nervous?" Ta asked. He was young, barely 30, and had never known a time when humans were part of the council. "Not nervous," Hyun replied. "Hopeful. We're not returning to the past. We're building something new." The New Beginning station orbited a star at the exact midpoint between council space and human cooperative territory. Its design combined architectural elements from a dozen species. Inside the main chamber, representatives from across the galaxy waited. Hyun entered with her small team. She recognized some faces from the old council. Others were new to her. Zindera rose from the center seat and bowed slightly. "Ambassador Kim, the council welcomes you. High Counselor Zindera, the human cooperative returns your welcome." They sat at a round table. No head position, no higher seats. Equal voices, equal status. "We are prepared to discuss the mutual respect accords," Hyun told the assembly. Her voice was strong despite her age. "An agreement between equals, nothing less." Zindera nodded. The council is ready to proceed on those terms. Over 3 days, they worked through the details of a new relationship. The accords recognized the sovereignty of all signing parties. They established fair trade practices. They created a framework for technology sharing that respected the rights of developers. Most importantly, they established that no species could claim inherent superiority over another. Advancement would be judged by actions and achievements, not by age or history. On the final day, representatives from 87 worlds and organizations gathered for the signing ceremony. Cameras broadcast the event to thousands of planets. This was a moment that would change galactic history forever. Hyun and Zindera signed first, their names side by side on the document. Then others came forward. The Proximan Ambassador, the Altair Collective, former Council worlds, and independent systems. Even species that had never left the Council signed, embracing the new principles that would govern galactic relations. When the ceremony ended, Hyun stood at a viewport looking out at the stars. Tai joined her there. "A successful mission," he said. "The greatest of your career." Hyun smiled. "Do you know what made this possible, Ta? Not our weapons or our ships or our technology." "What then?" "The courage to walk away." She turned from the stars to look at her young aide. "Sometimes the greatest statement is simply walking away from a table where you're not respected." Ta nodded slowly. "The council never believed we would leave. And that was their mistake. They thought we needed them more than we needed our dignity. Hyun looked back at the gathering, where former enemies now talked as equals. The galaxy has learned a painful but necessary lesson. Treat others as equals, or watch them create their own table. As the human cooperative ships prepared to depart, Zindera approached Hyun one last time. "I must ask," the High Counselor said quietly. "Did humanity plan this from the beginning? Was it all a strategy to force change?" Hyun considered the question. "No, we truly wanted to be partners. We tried for decades. The strategy came only after we realized partnership was impossible under the old system." "I see." Zindera's eyes showed understanding. "For what it's worth, I am sorry for how you were treated." "Don't be sorry," Hyun replied. "Be different. That's all we ever wanted." Later, as her ship headed home to Earth, Hyun recorded her final diplomatic log. She would retire permanently now, her work complete. "Today marks not an ending but a beginning," she dictated. "The principles we fought for are now accepted across the galaxy, not because we demanded them, but because we showed they were possible." She paused, looking out at the stars streaking past. "We did not break the galaxy by leaving. We helped heal it. That will be humanity's greatest legacy." As news of the Accord spread, celebrations erupted on human worlds. People who had never seen Earth celebrated the vision that had led humanity to independence. On a small colony at the edge of human space, a child asked her grandfather about the old days. "Were we really treated as less than others?" The old man nodded. "Yes. But we changed that, not just for ourselves, but for many worlds." "How?" asked the child. "By remembering our worth when others forgot it, by having the courage to stand alone, and by leaving a door open for a better future." Across the galaxy, a new equilibrium took hold. Not perfect, not without challenges, but built on mutual respect rather than power and control. It was a beginning, the first step toward a truly united galaxy of equals. The end.